All right, here with reaction, pollster Matt Towery of Insider Advantage and Harris Poll Chairman Mark Penn is with us. So Matt, start with you. I found those headlines, especially Reuters, New York Times, not exactly conservative outlets. Those dials were interesting as well. And I spoke to two other pollsters today. They said they got the same reaction. So there seems to be widespread consensus on that issue. Why?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, it was not Trump's best debate. We know that, but it didn't hurt him at all, apparently. We had a poll that Robert Cahaley and I did last night during the debate and afterwards. It showed undecideds didn't move as well. And I want to mention this. I'm in the field in Michigan. And in 2020, Insider Advantage had the best, the most accurate numbers in Michigan of the final 5 in the Real Clear Politics average. I don't have the final numbers, but I can look at them enough to tell you right now Trump is either even or ahead in Michigan. And if that's the case, then whatever boost she gets from this debate is going to be short-lived if she gets one at all.
Let me ask you, Mark Penn. I have worried that some of Kamala's radical positions, like no restrictions, even late-term abortions, mandatory gun buyback, no border wall, decriminalize illegal immigration, free housing, health care, education, and now taxpayer-funded sex change surgery for illegals and for convicted felons, her sponsorship of the $93 trillion Green New Deal. She would literally eliminate the filibuster. I would argue that's the end of capitalism, eliminating private insurance. Again, her bill, she supported government-run health care. You can't say radical Islamic terrorism. You can't say illegal alien, all the taxes. I would have been worried that that's not permeating into the consciousness of the American people fast enough, especially with early voting. Now, when I hear independents and watch independents on, on dials like that, I begin to think people really are starting to get it in spite of a media blackout. Am I wrong in my analysis?
Well, you're not wrong in your analysis, because we asked in the poll pretty much, what do you think Kamala Harris's views are? And they guessed more correctly than you would think. They think she is more for open borders and policies, and that she is more to the left of Biden. So I think some of this stuff is really sinking in, and it's raising questions, and that's why you have a bunch of undecided voters who are not moving that quickly till they hear more about what she stands for, and particularly more about the economy, because most undecided voters, they're not voting on immigration or abortion. They're really deciding on the economy and who they think will be a better president who will make things better for their own lives.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sponsor the Green New Deal, co-sponsor it with Bernie? How do you co-sponsor government health care for all, universal health care, eliminate private insurance? How do you want to decriminalize illegal immigration, free housing, health care, education, and sex change operations? And is there any way voters won't know those views before the election? How do you separate yourself, as she seems to be trying to do, by not talking very much about them? Mark.
Well, so far she's been pretty successful at keeping those views behind the scenes. And also, I think the Trump campaign hasn't really created an emotional reason why those views matter to the voters. When I did the 3 a.m. ad, I made Commander-in-Chief relevant to the voters, and everybody then voted on that. And so they're kind of getting the sense maybe she's too far to the left, but maybe not. They're not really sure, but Trump hasn't really been able to drive that difference. And last night, they didn't give him a chance to do that. And let me just add, by the way, when the refs are not fair, the score of a game generally doesn't count.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think this. I think the Trump campaign and their messaging, I watch their ads. I think they're pretty good, actually. I think the problem that the Republicans have is all these other PACs that are raising all this money in the name of Donald Trump, they're running mediocre ads. They don't hit on any of the points you're talking about, Sean. And Trump cannot do this on his own. I mean, there are super PACs all over this country helping the Democrats, big money. Somebody's got to get the messaging down for Trump other than just Trump, because he can't do it all on his own. I think the campaign's doing a pretty good job, to be honest with you.
All right. I appreciate both of you. Mark Penn, thank you. Matt Towery, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.